Do you want an opening that is easy to learn? You can play it against everything, and it's strong and fun to play. This is the King's Indian defense. It is split into 3 steps: the setup, the pawn break, and the attack. Let's jump into the first step. This is our ideal setup. But let's go back to see how we made it here. If your opponent plays anything other than e4, you're going to play knight f6, followed by g6 and then bishop g7. If they ever play e4, then you play d6 to stop e5. And then you castle, finishing up our setup. But if they play e4 instead of d4, you can't play knight f6 because of e5, so you play d6 and continue with your normal moves. Let's go back to our 3 steps. Now it's time for the pawn break. As you can see, we have finished the setup, but we are lacking center space. So we strike with e5, because when you take the pawn you take back, and you have knight takes e4. And you have a nice position with easy development. Let's go back to the 3 steps, as we have completed step 1 and step 2. Now it's time for step 3. I will show you a game that Kasparov played so you can understand how to attack as well. His opponent played knight f3, and as you know, he played knight f6. And after c4, he carried on with the setup. But as you remember, as his opponent played e4, he responded with d6. And after d4 getting the center, he castled, finishing up the setup. And now he plays e5, striking in the center. But his opponent decides not to take and castle instead, and then he develops his knight. And after his opponent attacks it, he moves his knight to the king's side, the side where the attack will start. Then he plays knight d2, preparing f5. After bishop e3, he strikes with f5, starting his attack. He plays f4, preparing to blow up the king's side with the h and g pawns. And after he moves his bishop, he plays g5. His opponent tries to create some counterplay with a 4. But Kasparov simply brings his knight to help with the attack. And then he brings the other knight. His opponent continues to try to break open the queen side. But Kasparov completely ignores it. His opponent tries to defend with h3, but it is already too late. He plays rook f7 with ideas to later play rook h7. He ignores the threats and just takes back with the bishop. After b4, he brings back his bishop, preparing to play g4. And when he takes the pawn, he ignores it and plays bishop h6. After knight b4, he plays g4. And then his opponent plays knight c6, attacking the queen, and Kasparov played queen f1 so later his queen can support the attack. Here the h file is open, and you will see how Kasparov uses it to his advantage. He plays bishop g5, making space for his queen to go to h6. And after bishop f3, he brings his queen to the attack. And also he is planning to go rook h7. After rook e1, he plays knight h4. Then his opponent took his knight, a fatal mistake. After g5, Kasparov can simply take the pawn. After his opponent moved his rook out of the attack, Kasparov went knight g4. And after rook b1, he played bishop g3, threatening queen h4 and a checkmate. So when his opponent played queen d3, he played queen h4 and his opponent resigned. I hope you enjoyed this video and don't forget to like and subscribe.